See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Can I need another one? Here, get you another one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Oprah Winfrey's name is now allegedly being mentioned in Jeffrey Epstein court filings, and the quiet from her side is loud right now. For years, people thought her empire was untouchable, like nothing could ever touch it. Any whispers about links to powerful men in Hollywood were brushed off as gossip, rumors, or hate talk, and most people kept it moving. That changed when federal raids on Sean Combs' properties exploded across headlines. Reports claim investigators found massive stockpiles of items raising eyebrows, along with financial trails that insiders say line up with quiet payoff patterns connected to other big names. None of this has been proven in court, but the timing alone has people asking questions, and the industry is acting nervous. Behind the scenes, sources are saying the Netflix documentary wasn't random at all. It was a calculated drop. Allegedly, footage came from someone deep inside Combs' circle, while legal chaos kept everyone distracted. 2 judges denied bail. Lawyers dismissed accusations as a money grab, yet leaked messages are fueling doubt. The math isn't mathing for a lot of people, especially after one line keeps circulating, Costco doesn't sell baby oil. Weinstein's accusers claim Oprah's name gave him cover, and Katt Williams is still sitting on what he calls receipts, waiting for the right moment to speak up.
I knew Tyler Ferry. I knew. He plays that Madeira part a little too goddamn well. He's uncomfortable as a man, but as a that mother is funny and very comfortable as a. Your shield has been unveiled. You can let that black woman go on about her business now. It's all out now. It's all out, allegedly.
This isn't just about one man falling from power. It's about the machine that allowed him to operate in plain sight. The silence from people around him and the recordings that are still rumored to exist are what's really putting pressure on the industry now. This story stretches far beyond a single arrest and points to something much bigger. When federal agents raided Sean Combs' mansions in Los Angeles and Miami last March, they weren't only focused on his private behavior. Investigators were reportedly looking for evidence of a wider system, not just isolated actions. The timing came just days after a grand jury indictment, and many observers say it felt deliberate rather than rushed. Authorities allegedly found large quantities of baby oil, eye drops said to be mixed with substances, and financial trails that went back years, all suggesting planning rather than recklessness. This wasn't just about one individual. It raised questions about the people who moved around him, attended private events, and never faced consequences.
P. Diddy be wanting the body, and you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did.
While Combs remains held in New Jersey, attention is quietly shifting elsewhere. The official explanation is that his own excess finally caught up with him, leading to serious charges including trafficking and racketeering. But many details don't sit right with the public. People keep circling back to the same odd details, like the volume of supplies and how none of it lines up with normal personal use, which is why federal interest appears to go far beyond one man's downfall. Ledgers were allegedly found alongside records showing payments tied to people who attended his so-called private parties. These weren't random wild nights. They were structured events with documentation, cameras present, and details carefully tracked. The people who could explain what really went down aren't speaking yet, but when you line up the dates, patterns start popping up, and that silence is feeling less solid by the day. Look at the timeline closely and it gets strange fast. The March raids, the September indictments, then the quiet change in Sean Combs' release date moved up a full week with zero public explanation. Somebody clearly knows more than they're letting on, and the pacing suggests they're waiting for the right window. Meanwhile, Combs' legal team has been loud for months, claiming the Netflix documentary The Reckoning was a setup, allegedly backed by his longtime rival 50 Cent. But here's where it really stops adding up. The footage that helped crack the case, including clips of Combs arguing with lawyers behind closed doors, didn't come from reporters or paparazzi. It was reportedly handed over by a third party, someone with direct access to his inner circle, while his team was distracted by indictments. That's not a random leak, that's a calculated move. Netflix says the footage was obtained legally, but the real question is who gained from it and why the spotlight stays fixed on Combs while bigger players remain untouched in the background. The contradictions start stacking up once you look at the reactions or the silence around them.
Well, welcome back to NNN, where we give it to you straight, no chaser. Well, this story is not straight at all. It's quite twisty, turny, and greasy. Tyler Perry, who's currently dating a black woman, wink, wink, was outed and sued for $260 million in a assault lawsuit filed by a male actor from his show, The Oval.
2 judges denied Sean Combs bail, which is a rare move and usually signals they saw evidence the public hasn't. Then his release date was quietly adjusted, cutting days off without any public explanation, and that kind of move doesn't happen without a reason. At the same time, attention shifted to a $77 million lawsuit involving Tyler Perry, filed by an actor who claims Perry made unwanted advances, allegedly offered money for silence, and later tried to damage his reputation when he refused. Perry's team denies the allegations and calls it a failed money grab, but the details being discussed publicly have raised eyebrows. What really stands out is how closely the accusations mirror patterns seen in other high-profile cases. Small recurring payments, promises of career help, and a structure that feels organized rather than random. In one alleged text exchange, Perry reportedly said, "I did so much for you," a line some see as frustration, while others read it very differently. Here's where it gets even more uncomfortable. The same attorney representing Perry's accuser is also handling another active case connected to him, despite claims that it was dismissed. That overlap has fueled talk of a pattern rather than coincidence. Then there's Oprah Winfrey, whose name keeps resurfacing in places she's never publicly addressed. Her name appears multiple times in documents linked to Jeffrey Epstein, along with her well-documented past public support of Harvey Weinstein before his downfall. There are also long-standing questions about a school she supported in South Africa, where abuse allegations led to arrests followed by settlements and limited media coverage. None of these connections prove wrongdoing, but the lack of clear explanations is exactly why people keep asking questions instead of letting the story fade. Now that Sean Combs' case is blowing up and lawsuits tied to Tyler Perry keep stacking, the questions are shifting fast. It's no longer just about what certain people may have known, it's about what they may have helped move along behind the scenes. When you line up the payments, the private gatherings, and the perfectly timed leaks, it starts to look less like chaos and more like damage control before things spun out of reach.
What kind of a toll would you say that this has all taken on you?
I was extremely anxious. The calls got to a point where the calls and texts were almost every day. Just this constant state of like, if I don't answer, I will lose my job.
The most unsettling part might actually be what's missing from the public record. In Combs' appeal, his team argues the judge acted like a 13th juror, but critics say the real issue is the evidence that never saw daylight. The alleged recordings from private events, the full payment ledgers, and the names tied to silence deals aren't side notes, they're leverage, and everyone knows it. Right now, someone is choosing when and how that leverage gets used. The documentary linked to 50 Cent wasn't the end of the story, it looked more like an opening move. The next wave, insiders claim, won't focus on Combs at all, but on the people who believed they were untouchable, the ones who signed checks, showed up quietly, and stayed silent when it counted. This was never just about one man's alleged crimes. It's about the structure that protected him and the people still guarding it. And the last piece no one wants to touch yet is the third party who delivered footage to Netflix. Not a hacker, not a reporter, but someone with real access, a clear motive, and something to gain by keeping the spotlight pointed in just the right direction. If the last few months proved anything, it's that the leaks are only getting started. The real question isn't if more is coming, it's who's next and how far they'll go to stay out of the spotlight. What connects Sean Combs, Tyler Perry, and Oprah Winfrey isn't just influence, it's the fear that sets in once that influence starts slipping. And that grip is slipping fast. The anxiety isn't limited to a few insiders, it's spreading across the industry. Sources say people tied to projects involving Combs, Perry, and Oprah are quietly lawyering up, with crisis PR teams working overtime behind closed doors. Nobody wants to be caught flat-footed if another name drops. This isn't only about exposure, it's about being next in line. Actors who worked on Perry's productions are reportedly rereading old contracts, looking closely at morality clauses. Musicians once connected to Bad Boy Records are said to be scrubbing social media, removing photos and posts linked to private events they'd rather forget. Even former protégés tied to Oprah's media world are watching every move. They're the ones feeling the heat the most, knowing how fast ties can be cut when someone becomes a liability. The old Hollywood rule was simple: you're only as safe as your last scandal. But now the rules look different because investigators aren't just focused on the top names. They're looking at anyone who benefited from the system, and that has a lot of people nervous right now. What makes this feel different from past scandals is the sheer volume of potential evidence now in play. Alleged recordings from Sean Combs' private events, financial records tied to Tyler Perry's production company, and emails and contracts connected to Oprah Winfrey's ventures are all reportedly under scrutiny. Industry insiders whisper about a quiet domino list. a mental roster of names that could fall if just one person decides to talk. The tension isn't only about what people may have done, it's about what they may have seen. One background actor from a Perry film allegedly broke down in a private meeting, admitting they witnessed inappropriate situations but felt too afraid to speak up at the time. A former artist linked to Bad Boy Records is said to have hired a private investigator to track down old footage, worried something damaging could resurface from past gatherings. Then there are the so-called Oprah alumni, producers and media figures who built careers under her banner and are now questioning the cost of that protection. What once felt theoretical is now happening in real time, with late-night phone calls, urgent legal advice, and quiet preparation for fallout that may not be avoidable. The clearest sign of panic is the sudden silence. Public figures who once thrived on attention have gone radio quiet, social accounts are inactive, interviews are being canceled without explanation, and names keep disappearing from high-profile events. Agents are urging clients to lay low. Studios are delaying projects tied to Perry's company, and the industry's usual spin machine is struggling because this isn't just another headline, it's a reckoning years in the making. For former associates tied to Sean Combs, this is where the pressure really hits. Federal prosecutors don't just chase the headline name, they go after the entire network. The message is clear across Hollywood. If you were part of the machine, you're now part of the scope. And in an industry where loyalty is traded like currency, the real question is who cracks first to protect themselves. The deeper people dig into Combs' case, the clearer it becomes this was never just about a private lifestyle. It points straight at how power shields itself in Hollywood. The same patterns keep resurfacing: payments, private gatherings, and carefully managed narratives that kept everything quiet. None of this looks random, and that's the part unsettling a lot of insiders right now. That's why the lawsuit tied to Tyler Perry isn't being treated as an outlier. Critics say it mirrors an old playbook: small recurring payments, promises of career advancement, and pressure to stay silent. The difference this time is that the cracks are visible. Perry's accuser, Mario Rodriguez, didn't just file paperwork. He posted a video saying he stayed quiet for too long. That kind of move doesn't look like a quick cash grab to many observers. Once one accuser is taken seriously, the fear is that everything opens up. That's why efforts to frame the claims as a failed money grab have been so aggressive, because the stakes go way beyond one lawsuit. Others with similar stories are watching closely, and some are clearly weighing their options. Then there's Oprah Winfrey, whose name keeps resurfacing in uncomfortable places. Her name appears multiple times in documents connected to Jeffrey Epstein, along with her past public support of Harvey Weinstein until allegations became impossible to ignore. There are also long-standing questions tied to a school she supported in South Africa, where abuse allegations led to arrests, followed by settlements and limited media coverage. None of this proves wrongdoing, but together it explains why so many people believe this story is far from over. Her team has never fully addressed any of it, and they've also never explained why her name was allegedly used to make people feel safe when they shouldn't have. What stands out now is not what was said, but what wasn't. While other powerful figures rush to do damage control, Oprah Winfrey has stayed completely silent, and that silence is doing a lot of talking. That doesn't look accidental, it looks calculated. When someone has spent decades building an image around trust and moral authority, drawing attention to contradictions is the last thing they want. Right now, those contradictions are stacking up fast, and avoiding the spotlight may be the safest move. The overlap between these cases isn't just about similar behavior, it's about shared enablers. The same lawyers, the same publicists, the same behind-the-scenes fixers who make sure scandals get contained before they spread. Katt Williams has been calling this out for years, warning that the industry protects its biggest names while crushing anyone who threatens the system. His comments about Sean Combs' private parties, the heat turned up, the supplies, the cameras, weren't framed as random chaos, but as tools of leverage. Taken together, they paint a picture of structure, not coincidence. And that's what makes people uneasy. When you step back and look at how these scandals unfold, a clear pattern emerges. The people at the top don't just avoid consequences, they use them. Lawsuits, leaks, and carefully timed documentaries aren't random events. They're strategic moves in a larger power game. And the most dangerous part of this story isn't what's already public, it's what hasn't surfaced yet. What really matters now is what's still hidden. The alleged recordings from Sean Combs' private events, the complete payment ledgers, and the names of people who attended and were promised silence aren't minor details. To many observers, those pieces represent leverage, and someone is clearly deciding when and how to use it. The question isn't if more will surface, it's who ends up in the spotlight next and how hard they'll fight to avoid it. What links Combs, Tyler Perry, and Oprah Winfrey goes beyond influence. It's the fear that comes when long-held power starts slipping away, and right now, that grip looks weaker than ever. The reactions behind the scenes suggest people know the ground is shifting. This story keeps circling back to something bigger than individual accusations. It's about an ecosystem that protected itself for years. Critics point to how Oprah's name allegedly gave Harvey Weinstein credibility, how accusations tied to Perry involve similar payment amounts seen in other cases, and how Combs' gatherings were described not as casual parties, but as tightly controlled environments. To many, those similarities don't look accidental. These aren't isolated situations. They're pieces of the same machine, and that machine is starting to strain. With multiple lawsuits, overlapping allegations, and more people willing to speak, pressure is building fast, and systems like this don't fail quietly. The last piece still sitting in the shadows is the unnamed third party who delivered footage to Netflix. Not a hacker, not a reporter, but someone with access, motive, and something to gain. If recent months have shown anything, it's that the leaks aren't slowing down. And the real question now is who gets caught when the next one hits? What really connects Sean Combs, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey isn't just influence or money, it's the fear that hits when power starts slipping away. And right now, that grip is loosening faster than anyone expected. Here's where the story turns darker, because the silence we're seeing isn't just self-protection, it's mutual protection. Oprah's team has never directly addressed the Epstein-related documents. Perry's legal defense mirrors tactics used in other high-profile cases to discredit accusers, and Combs' appeal focuses more on the judge than the evidence itself. These aren't random choices, they're survival moves, and once one weak link breaks, the rest are exposed. A system built on silence doesn't fear the truth, it fears the first person brave enough to say it out loud. And that's where things stand now. The recordings are rumored to exist, accusers are speaking up, lawsuits are stacking, and the people at the center aren't just defending reputations anymore, they're protecting their futures. Because when a machine like this starts to crack, someone always ends up holding the blame. And it's starting to look like that moment is close. Now it's on you. Who do you think is really pulling the strings here? Is Oprah's silence calculated strategy or something else? Did Tyler Perry's team misjudge the public by calling these cases a money grab? Or was that the plan all along? And the biggest question of all, what happens when the next tape surfaces? Because one thing is clear, this story is far from finished. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who's been watching closely, and we'll see you in the next one.